Hey guys, so I wanted to make a quick video going over probably the best range ability you can play currently and also the best mapper overall in the game. That's Lane Hour Deadeye with Ball Lightning. So people have been doing this Ball Lightning tech for a few days now, but I've turned this bonus not just a boss killer, but also the best mapper you can play, at least in my opinion. It is absolutely insane. I'll show you some clips real quick. So first things first, here's the boss damage if you're curious. Okay, what is the boss damage of this build? It's absolutely ridiculous. This is the pinnacle boss, I think like 3rd difficulty or something, and he gets absolutely shredded. You can get way higher damage than this as well. My setup is not optimal for bosses at all. My setup is mostly for speed clear maps, and boss is just secondary, but it can clearly do bosses as you can see here, completely boss viable. But yeah, completely destroy the boss, no issue whatsoever, and yeah. Here's some map footage real quick. So like I said, it's more built for mapping. You can get more boss damage, but I invested more into mapping because I think mapping's more fun than just farm bosses all day. But as you can see, the map is also insane. It is by far the best breach build and overall the fastest mapper in the game. Held of Ice and Hell of Thunder chains are absolutely insane still. This is all post-nerf gameplay. As you might have known, Deadeye's got a huge nerf like yesterday with the Herald's nerfs, but it's still very, very strong with a few changes in the build that I'll go over in this video. But yeah, very strong speed clear. Even on lower end gear, it's still very, very strong. So yeah, I also wrote a full mobility guide here that I'll keep updated, of course. It's also my Google sheet and notes that you should probably read. Very important stuff here. Let's just go over the basics real quick. What you need this build to work, when you can play it, all that. So first things first, yes, you can play this build whenever. The important thing is you need to get the intelligence requirement for both cast on shock and ball lightning. I believe the minimal requirements for both of these is level 11 and level 8. Which is 95 intelligence. I have 119 here. High level is better, but it's not required whatsoever. So go for that, 95 intelligence. It can be quite hard to get at the start of maps, but as soon as you can get 95 intelligence, then you should definitely go for this setup. Keep in mind that getting dex on gear is equivalent to getting intelligence, because if you have dex on gear, then you can replace your dex nodes with intelligence nodes on the skill tree. So do very much keep that in mind. Very nice dex wheel over here. So make sure to grab these, even grab these extra points if you need to. I think you'd fill out both dex and intelligence. So yeah, besides that, let's go over the build real quick. Passive skill tree. I'll go over jewels real quick. The best things you want on jewels, stuff like attack speed, increased damage against rares, projectile damage, increased bonuses gained from quick quivers, definitely by far the best, but also by far the most expensive. I think the only important thing in the passive tree, where you want to go first, is get this pierce node, because then you're letting our pierces. Without this, it might feel a little bit worse. And also come over here for these dex nodes, because you are going to need dex. Don't get acrobatics until you're in like red maps, so like mid to early level 80s. You don't need this at all. You need a lot of evasion to make it worth it, so don't rush this at all. You can skip a lot of these nodes. And you can also skip the evasion based nodes as well until you actually get acrobatics, because you don't need this much evasion if you're not using acrobatics. Besides that, tree is pretty much standard for like any bow build. There's nothing I would really change at this point. You also do want this pressure point wheel. It helps a lot with their freeze buildup and stun buildup, which are very important, especially for Herald of Ice. And this node right here, this also helps their freeze buildup as well. So yeah, that's pretty much the passive skill tree. You can use far shot or point blank. I've been testing both. I think both look good. Use whatever one you want. It doesn't really matter that much. That sense the order is Tailwind, then point blank or far shot, then endless munitions, and then windward. As for gear real quick, just go over. You want the highest DPS bow possible, whether that's Fizz, whether that's Ellie, doesn't matter. Preferably have +1 arrow, either on the implicit through the dual string bow base or in the suffix from any other bow. The best bow is pure Fizz / cold, so something like this. Very expensive bow, but yeah, this is the best bow you could possibly get. Of course, better suffix, but like I said, it could be any type. It could be Ellie damage here, it could be lightning damage, fire damage. You just want the overall highest DPS bow you can get. Cold is ideal though, and I'll talk about that in a second. And every other piece is just going to be life and resist, but you do want a high evasion chest, and you can even sacrifice life here if you want. It's not a big deal. Yeah, life and resist in every single piece, high evasion chest. Obviously, Hunter is not required whatsoever. If you guys want to see the pieces real quick, I'll just cover all of them real quick. Amulet. Essence of the Mountain is the best anoint, but it is kind of expensive. If you don't have the currency to get Essence of the Mountain, then you can get a node called High Alert, just to give some more evasion. Quiver stats, my quiver's not that good actually. I actually shooting a better quiver. I think this quiver is only like 10 exalts. I can definitely get a way better quiver. But yeah, damage stats like attack speed, damage with bow skills, flat damage, plus levels, all good stats here. This is the best base prime quiver. The pierce one's also okay if you need pierce. Also keep in mind you do need a Thief's Torment. So there's two ways you can do this. You can just hot swap it in for bosses like I do. In that case, you might lose some resist, so do keep that in mind. You know, might not be resist cap if you swap this ring in. Or you can build your character around this ring, use it all the time, and just build your character around it. The reason why I don't use this all the time is because the ring doesn't give that many stats, so it's hard for me to justify to always use this, as you do lose a lot of resist if you decide to permanently use this ring. You can do either or, it's up to you. This ring is not needed to start the build, but it is required to do that insane boss DPS, because if you don't have this ring, you'll instantly go on bosses and then end up dealing like no damage. So yeah, it's not needed to start, not needed in white maps whatsoever, but you do eventually want this ring as it allows you to do insane damage on bosses. Like I said, on bosses, I just swap the ring in, kill the boss, and I swap my ring back out. The last things, let's go over the skills real quick, the rotations and stuff like that. Really important information you need to know. So these are all the skills you want to use. I'm going to talk about it real quick. You don't need a 6 link for anything. 5 links are pretty important, but this build can be played on all 4 links. I would just prioritize your first 5 link on Land Arrow, and then probably Land Rod. Land Rod is all your boss damage, and Land Arrows is all your clear, so you really want these 5 linked as soon as possible. But the important stuff on Land Arrow is making sure you have both Cold Infusion and Ice Bite here. Cold Infusion, because it no longer works on Heralds, is how we're going to different out Freeze, so it's very important to put this on Land Arrow. I also do have other stuff in my FAQ on how you can freeze. This isn't enough. So having cold damage on quiver, cold damage on bow, using unique quiver, unique ring. Like I said, that's all in the FAQ if you want to see it for yourself. But this by itself should be enough to freeze. If it's not, then do check the FAQ, as there's other ways to help you freeze. But you do really want to freeze because your clear without Herald of Ice is really bad. But with Herald of Ice, it's extremely good. So anyway, yeah, this is the Land Arrow. All these links are from order from most important to least important. So if you don't have a 5 link or 6 link, just take out the last 2 gems or last gem. Land Rod here, nothing important. Conduction is very nice. Herald of Thunder here, this helps you clear massively and also procs your Innervate. Herald of Ice, this is how you get your big explosions, your really good clear speed. It's very important to have Magnifying Effect on here for increased AoE. If you have a drop 1 link, then drop Cold Mastery. But Herald of Ice is pretty much all of your clear. Without this, your clear sucks. That's why you really want to make sure you Shatter in and Freeze in with Land Arrow. Wind Dancer, one of the best auras in the game, just more evasion. Escape Shot, this is useless, you can take it out to be honest. Orbit Storms, so Orbit Storms, it only matters if you have a 5 link, a 4 link does nothing. So you want Orbit Storms, Chain, and Persistence. Then if you have a 5 link, you add Unleash and Overabundance. If you don't have a 5 link, any one of these don't really matter that much. Cast on Shock, this is massive for a single target. So you have Ball Lightning, Deceleration, Impuritus, Energy Retention. This is a very important good 5 link as well. I'll probably prioritize as my third. Now I do have Cast on Freeze here. Now keep in mind this Cast on Freeze is what I do for mapping. So for example, if I'm not doing a boss, all I do is I click off my Herald of Shock and click on Cast on Freeze. So if I'm bossing, I have this. Okay, boss is dead, click off, go Cast on Freeze. It's just for mapping. You can also swap the gems as well if you want. This is like optional. But yeah, Cast on Freeze for mapping, and then click on Cast on Shock for bossing. It's very easy, doesn't take that much effort. You don't have to do it if you want. You can just keep on Cast on Shock. But having a Cast on Freeze for mapping does help a little bit, because Voltaic Mark is extra clear. But it's completely optional, it's up to you. It's very little effort. I do mention this here as well. Also, something very important, self-cast Voltaic Mark if you feel like you can't shock bosses. So this can happen on very low gear setups. If you aren't shocking bosses consistently enough, then self-cast this Voltaic Mark. Very simple rotation, I'll go over it real quick. But yeah, all it is, for map clear, it's just Land Arrow. If you're lower gear, you might need to press Land Rods on rares and regular packs to get extra damage. If you have to do that, it's fine, it's not a big deal. But yeah, just Land Arrow. If you need more damage, press Rod. And now for bosses, all you'll do is press your Overstorms and then spam Rod, and this is it. That's the whole gameplay. If you have to cast Voltaic Mark because you didn't do enough damage yet, then you'll just place down your Overstorms, Voltaic Mark, and then you'll spam your Rods. And that's the whole gameplay. It's very simple, very low button press, very easy. But yeah, I also go over here to Spirit. You also don't need 150 Spirit, so I have 50 Spirit in my amulet. This is not required whatsoever. You can place with 100 Spirit. How you place 100 Spirit is quite easy. So essentially all you do is you have your Herald of Ice and Herald of Thunder on for clear. So I can show for your hero example. And then for bosses, all you'll do, you'll click these off and then click on Cast on Shock. And this is how you can play this build at 100 Spirit. The reason for this and the reason why you can do this is because Herald of Ice and Herald of Thunder practically do nothing for bosses. So you don't need them on. There's no reason to have them on. But the Spirit does give you some nice quality of life, so it is worth having. But yeah, that is something you can do as well. You don't need Spirit at all to play this build. The most important requirement is getting that intelligence, and you can play this in the startup maps. It is very strong and very nice. So I think that's about it. I think I covered everything. If I missed anything, feel free to leave a comment below. Also, do check the FAQ. I'm always keeping it updated. And do check the Mobalytics guide. I'll get this updated as well. Just a fair warning, this build might get nerfed. It's the weekend over in New Zealand, so GG might not nerf this build over the weekend. Maybe come Monday, it might get nerfed. If it does get nerfed though, I do have some backup plans to where it'll still be a viable and strong build. So yeah, if you want to roll this build, don't be worried, because even if it does get nerfed, it'll still be strong in the end game, as I do have some backup setups. But anyway, that's about it.